Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. So it's been quite some time since the last video, been about 3 months, and a lot has happened in that time. As many of you may recall, I was in the process of home buying, and I accomplished that, and I'm recording this latest video from the new office in my new house. I'm pretty happy with things. I mean, it was quite a process, especially when you go through the VA home loan. There's a lot of incompetency to deal with, but at the end of the day, it was worth going through all that to make it to this point, to get out of the apartment living and to kind of finally have a place that, as each month progresses and you're paying the mortgage, you've kind of got something to show for it. And also, in the meantime, I was able to get me a dog that I got from the shelter. And so that's been really cool to have and has been really good for both of us, because it's always nice to have that extra bit of company around. And then at the same time, the dog relies on you and you give the dog a good home. So that's been something of value also that has taken place in my life. I've had so much on my plate here lately, and it made me start to think about some things. And those things kind of being when you kind of overwhelm yourself with with work and with all the things going on in your personal life, sometimes it's good to take time to sit down and reflect on things. And it made me start thinking about this whole thing that I'm doing here with the podcast, or whatever we're calling this thing, the monthly message from John Nada or whatever. But I think I've told you guys in the past that I get as much out of doing this for you guys as some of y'all have told me that you get out of the videos themselves. It's really humbling to think that I've had several people tell me that they really anticipate hearing from me, and it really helps them and has helped them in the past, and has seemingly gotten them through some tough times. And so I don't want y'all to think that it's all one-sided, because I really do get kind of a catharsis out of doing this, and knowing that like-minded people are hearing what I'm saying. And a lot of the comments are great. I mean, a lot of comments are insightful in and of themselves. And there's a lot of you guys out there that you might think about starting your own YouTube channel and producing content, because at some point I'm going to want to stop, although I don't know that I will, but and I'll need something to listen to when that day comes. So I really, this is just kind of a catching up with you guys thing. I have been thinking about a lot of things lately, and I kind of in a way thought, man, it's been 3 months. I really need to have something profound and insightful to say. And so even though it's been a minute, I kind of feel like, I need to really, unleash some sort of kernel of wisdom. But I have a lot of thoughts in my head, and I don't quite know, where to start with them. And these videos aren't typically very long, so it's one of those things where it's like, if you get off on a rabbit trail, that's the video. But a thought came to mind the other day when I was just kind of going about my day. The idea of changing the world. And that's something that we've all heard, I'm sure, at one point or the other growing up. And maybe many of us thought that we would change the world, and spent, a good chunk of our youth or whatever thinking, I really need to do this or to do that or become this or become that, in the hopes that you would change the world. And the world's been here a long time. There's some debate on how long it's been here, but we'll save that for the philosophers and the theologians. The thing that I think a lot of people don't ever realize is that it's hard enough to change yourself. It's hard enough to make even little changes in your life. I mean, many of us over the years have struggled with weight loss or struggled with, you know, maybe some depression issues or struggled with dependency on alcohol or something like that. Many of us, I mean, we've all got our own crosses to bear. We've all got our own demons that we're fighting. And I don't know why, but it just kind of came up in my mind. It's like, you know, that's shooting pretty high to think that, you know, you're going to change the world, especially through some uh, little behavior or little intentional action or something is going to change the world, because the world in and of itself is comprised of people, and people don't often change. I mean, that's always been something that I've believed. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's my observation from life, is that people tend not to change because change is difficult for most people. It requires effort, and sometimes it requires a great amount of effort. And people ultimately, I think, are afraid to try to even change. They think about changing. They plan, you know, map out, you know, and plan a change. They know cognitively that maybe they need to change, but it's just so darn hard. It's just difficult. And you know, it's kind of like the way your body reacts to the whole weight loss thing. You know, as you start to lose calories and all that kind of stuff, your body starts to try to fight and hold on to body mass, because you know it thinks that it doesn't know that it lives in a, you know, in a region of the world where food and things like that there's easy access to, versus a million years ago or whatever, when food was a lot more scarce and hard to come by. And so, getting back on track with it, it's like it's difficult to change because most people like the idea of change, but they don't really want to go through the process of changing, because it's almost like a second job. I mean, you know, if you already work 8 to 12 hours a day, or 6 days a week, you know, or something like that, then you know you don't want to take on the additional task of trying to do all these other kind of extracurricular things to bring about whatever change it is that you're trying to bring about. And the world being what it is, comprised of people, really you can't change anybody. You can inspire people to want to change. You can set an example for people to aspire to think, man, I really want to be like that person, or man, that person's really, successful, or that person has a calmness and peace and tranquility with them, and I want to be like them. We've all seen those people. We all know those people that we wish we could be more like. Grandfathers, fathers, older brothers, leaders that we had in the military, or a mother, or whatever the case may be. We've all seen those people, that whether they be family members or they just be people in our lives that we, had a connection to one way or the other. That's been about the most change that anybody could affect on another person, is to be an inspiration and to be a model for change. But ultimately, that person has to want to change, and ultimately you and I have to want the change for the change to ever manifest or take effect. And then, of course, you have to take the steps to make the change, whatever the change may be. I don't know if it's a depressing thought or a pessimistic thought. I'm not trying to be defeatist in things, but it just was a thought that came to mind that I don't know if I've ever. I'm sure I've brought some variation of that idea up before, but because I find myself, as I know many of you do, in the perpetual state of wanting to change a lot of things. And it made me think of, in my youth, I don't know that I ever thought I'd change the world, but it just made me think of in my youth that, you know, the idealism there to change something bigger than yourself. And then, of course, growing up with people that really did think they were going to change the world. And the simple fundamental fact is that you cannot really change anybody. You can't make anybody do anything that they don't want to do. You can't control anybody. But, you know, change is something that is completely within your own personal grasp and your own personal control. But it takes a lot of effort. So again, I don't know. To me, it seems kind of profound, you know, on a level where I'd never really thought of that before, because especially when people are young, they really do think they're going to change the world. And so they spend a great bit of deal of time trying to do that very thing. And in the meantime, they don't realize that really the only change that they can bring about is a change in their own life and a change with themselves. And that kind of leads into some other ideas as well. You know, MGTOW, in a sense, is about, you know, of course, it's about personal responsibility and self-direction. And some people would call it a selfish way to be, but I don't really see it that way, because I think that what it's ultimately calling people to is to become the best version of themselves they can be. And the better version of yourself that you can be, you know, this is the person that people in the world will interact with. This is the person that's going to interact with society and the world. So the more self-aware you can be, and the more improved that you can be, not just physically or financially, but I'm talking about mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, really you're getting a better, there's no other way to say it, I guess, is say you're getting a better quality being out into the world and out into the universe. So ultimately, the gains that you make, the changes that you make, have an effect, whether it's intended or not. It has an effect on bringing about, I guess, more positivity and a better sense of things into the world at large. So the more I work on myself, the more that I try to change myself for the better, because I hope that most of us, and I would think that most of us, are trying to change ourselves for the better and trying to change our own situations for the better. And again, not just physically or financially or professionally, but I mean mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And then the work that you put in, society and the world benefits from the work that you put in to be self-aware and to have, you know, a self-realization. And so I guess the reason that I got to thinking about all this was because a lot of things have been on hold for me the last couple months, especially, you know, the virus and the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff really affected a lot of people. And it was almost kind of like things were just in a holding pattern for a lot of people. And then I got involved in the endeavor of trying to find the house and move and get everything settled in. And that takes quite a bit of time. I mean, I started looking in May, and you know, the whole time since then, since the last video, which was in May, was spent trying to square all that away. And that's a whole story in and of itself, but I'll save that for another video. But I'm hoping that I've always said that, you know, I don't really want to make videos just to make videos. You know, a lot of people get into the mindset of, I've got to make a video every day, or I've got to make a video every week. I would like to try to do a video every month. I've been really inconsistent in how often I do videos, but maybe that's been a good thing, because I don't want to just make a video to just make a video. You know, I want it to be something that is worthwhile for not only myself, but for you guys. And so I'm going to try to get into the habit, so to speak, of doing at least one video a month. Now, that's provided that that I have something to talk about, which normally I do have a lot of things that come up from time to time, and they just end up into one video at one time. So I may have to spread those out as time goes on. But anyway, it's good to be back. It's good to have some sort of a semblance of a routine going back on, and to kind of be over the biggest hurdle with this thing. But I'm hoping that now that I'm in the house, I can start moving in the direction of some changes I want to make, and start heading in that direction and seeing where those things lead. And so as we come towards the end of the year, because this year has gone by very fast, we're coming up on fall here, let's continue to move towards our goals and continue to make the changes that we need to make, and be willing to put the time into those things. Until next time, go your own way or don't. The choice is yours.